All right, folks, it looks like it's time to get started with the webinar. This is Bill Herp. I'm the CEO of Linear Air. Thanks for those of you who have joined us both via the GoToMeeting webinar system, as well as those folks who are calling in. I think we've got a few people on the line and gotten the technical aspects, I think, a little bit under control here. I have muted everyone out so that if you haven't muted yourself out, we won't get any bleed over. So we'll go ahead and run through the slides here and give you guys the opportunity to hear what we're talking about doing with the Linear Air Taxi digital marketplace. So I'm sharing my screen. You guys should be able to see this. For those of you who are just calling in, we're going to make a recording of this and make it available via a link as well. We'll try to get through these slides as expeditiously and as clearly as possible so that you guys get a good sense of what it is that we've been able to accomplish and what we've been able to do in terms of validating the concept of air taxi travel, and more importantly, our ability to link operators of small technically advanced aircraft like the Cirrus SR-22 that you see in the background of our title slide with travelers who are hungry for alternatives to the decreasing quality and levels of regional airline service driving and aren't able to justify the expense of private jet charter, but are still looking for a quality experience like that. There are some important disclosures. I'm not going to give you enough time to read all this, but just suffice to say that this is a private placement that's offered to accredited investors. Offer Board is helping us out with that, and we'll get into some of the details of the offering in a little bit. But to sort of bring it up to a high level to something that is relatively easily relatable by most people I know these days, our vision is to transform regional travel by making it as easy to schedule an air taxi as it is to book an Uber. A little bit of a well-worn and perhaps overused analogy, but one which is apt in our case, as there are many operators of these technically advanced air taxi aircraft like the Cirrus that I showed on the prior slide. There are literally thousands of these aircraft out there that are being managed on behalf of the owners and are certified by the FAA to operate in commercial service. They represent right now a relatively untapped level of capacity that the current sales channels for private air travel are not interested in, because the average transaction size is only $2,500. So charter brokers of the type you may be familiar with, Blue Star Jets, Magellan, Apollo, companies like that, Sentient, they're focused on a direct sales model that is supported by transactions of tens of thousands of dollars. And while our transactions are much larger than, say, Uber, they're not of interest to the traditional charter brokerage network. So it's ripe for the implementation of a digital marketplace that connects these operators who don't have a sales channel and have a lot of excess capacity with customers who are eager for an alternative to worsening airline service and tedious driving. We've come to this after having been an operator of air taxi aircraft since 2004 for over 10 years, and having built the technology platform to manage customer relationships, booking transactions, customer data, and make customers happy with not only the process of flying them from A to B, but the process of helping them book a trip and manage the process as we go along. And that experience has informed one of the major uses of proceeds of the round that we're raising now, which is to roll out native iOS and Android apps for both our customers and for the operators, so on both sides of the marketplace. On the customer side, we have existing email and web-based booking processes that would be very easily transitioned to an app. And then we also foresee other sorts of in-app marketing opportunities, the ability to sell per-seat service and do essentially ride sharing and so forth, as being very sticky types of features that could be put into an app that could be rolled out immediately. We have almost 20,000 people in our database, several thousand of whom are customers, with whom we would anticipate relatively low-hanging fruit style adoption rates. On the operator side, we currently have a email and web-based trip acceptance process that would be easily transitioned to an in-app, similar to how an Uber driver accepts a trip or declines a trip. We would put that in app, and then would also provide the basis for increasing the integration between the marketplace and individual operators' businesses, in many ways similar to how Uber has approached it, by providing them business analytics support, payment processing, customer satisfaction ratings, and those sorts of things that would tie our businesses more tightly together and create a barrier to exit for them and a barrier to entry for other potential competitors if there are any that come along. To sort of tell you where we stand, we've been running the digital air taxi marketplace. We had a stub year in 2013. We did about 300,000 in air taxi segment billings. Last year we did about 800,000. Already this year we've done 1.5 million in air taxi segment billings. We've had 2.9 million in total billings. The difference there being Eclipse Jet and other charters that are relatively, small niche, opportunity that doesn't have the same high growth potential as the air taxi. And you can see that our air taxi segment billings are up 230% year to date over the same year to date period in 2014, and with increasing momentum. September was up 250% over September of 2014. And all of this growth from the 800,000 last year to what we're projecting to be around 2.3 million this year is as a result of our ability to demonstrate a customer acquisition process this year. So we have spent several $100,000 this year acquiring customers through search engine marketing, primarily Google AdWords campaigns, but also retargeting and behavioral targeting and some other online techniques that has resulted in a customer acquisition cost of about $600. Throwing in all of our other customer acquisition channels, word of mouth, our API to Kayak, where people can find us by searching on Kayak when they're searching for an airline option, we're at about $300. Our average transaction, as I mentioned, is about $2,500 for an air taxi trip. And what we're finding is that customers, on average, are purchasing 2 trips in their first 12 months. So and we make about 20%. So each trip, $2,500 times 20% yields us about $500. And so our 12-month customer margin value is about $1,000 against a CAC for things we can spend money on of $600, and for other things included about $300. So it's a very attractive CAC ROI equation compared to other digital marketplaces where people will spend up to the value of their margin in the first year. We're only at 30 and 60% respectively. As a result, we're expanding into the Southeast and the Southwest, and the operators that we're targeting all have plenty of excess capacity, and so therefore it's a very frictionless process to sign up operators. We find them in the FAA database, put them into our system, promote them via Kayak, promote them via Google AdWords, generate trips, call them up, tell them you've never heard from us before, but we want to give you $2,500, and they are all over it. So we're very excited about the ease with which we're able to provide a demand-led expansion as we go around the country. And that's the other major use of proceeds for the round we're raising, is to increase our customer acquisition spending based upon the successful metrics that we've demonstrated this year. And all of what the rest of what we're doing is designed to provide, leverage to our API to Kayak and our sales and operations folks, which again has been informing the app planning for features that are low-hanging fruit related to trip booking and customer service. So to put it more graphically, here's a bar chart that shows air taxi bookings in 2015 versus 2014. The green bars are 2015, the blue bars are 2014. It's important to note that these were struck as of September 30th. So you can see the October green bar is as of September 30th. So we had pre-booked whatever that is, about 30 trips, 35 trips coming into October. I can tell you that as of this week, we're at about 75. That's against a 2014 number of 45. So our green bar for October is already substantially higher than the blue bar, and we still have a few days left in October. Importantly, the people behind this have experience across a broad range of important and relevant types of skills and talents. I myself have a background in digital marketing. Before starting Linear Air, I started eDialogue, which was a venture-backed company now owned by eBay, actually, after it was sold to GSI Commerce. And as mentioned, we founded an Eclipse Jet air taxi business 10 years ago. That was the beginning of Linear Air. And then 2 years ago, we transitioned that into the air taxi digital marketplace that is the subject of our conversation today. Peter Schmidt is our senior tech guy, the architect behind the platform. Scott Healy is our senior marketplace advisor and has significant marketplace experience and has been managing the customer acquisition campaign work that our agency has been doing for us this year. Melissa O'Shea is our VP of Sales and Ops and runs a team that helps people understand what air taxi is and how to buy it and how it works for them and gets them to repeat purchase. Our advisors are a pretty impressive group of folks. Joel Brown was formerly the Senior Vice President of Worldwide Ops at OpenTable, a very successful marketplace for restaurant reservations. It's now owned by Priceline. Clay Christensen is the Harvard Business School professor who popularized the term disruptive innovation and disruptive technology, and is both a customer, a spokesperson, as well as an advisor to the company, and believes very much in the concept of air taxi as being disruptive to other modes of transportation for regional travel. Edwin Brennickmeyer of the Brennickmeyer family is our lead investor, as well as an aviation expert and a pilot who's based in the UK. And Santo Politi, who is our sort of capital advisor and advising us on the capital raising process and the stages of growth at which we are raising capital, co-founder and general partner of Spark Capital, which is a highly successful venture capital firm based in the Boston area, as evidenced by the notation underneath his name. And so digital marketplaces, why are we doing this? Well, there's the opportunity with all of these air taxi aircraft that exist out there that are underutilized and that represent and don't have any access to traditional charter sales channels, as well as travelers on the other side of the marketplace who are hungry for an alternative to worsening regional airline service and tedious driving. But the concept behind a digital marketplace is that the marketplace business is disconnected or unlinked from the asset risk. So as you know, companies like Uber, Airbnb, Lyft, OpenTable, they don't operate restaurants, cars, hotels, etc. They link the underutilized supply to demand using technology to provide significant leverage. So, these businesses have these multi-billion-dollar valuations because the variable cost associated with a transaction is essentially the credit card fee and nothing more. So, as you'll see in our projections, there is a significant opportunity to get technology leverage within this space, create a highly defensible business with regard to the operators by providing them more value and a technology integration, as well as with the customers. So to sort of reiterate what I've been saying here about the opportunity, the real and growing need is for a third alternative to the airlines and driving for regional trips, and providing a better passenger experience by essentially giving customers a private air travel experience. We operate through the same private terminals, and our operators operate through the same private terminals as any other charter company. So, you drive up 15 minutes before it's time to leave. Often a valet takes your car. The pilot greets you and personally handles your luggage and takes care of you from the beginning of the flight to the end of the flight. And our customer service team is there to provide support for ground transportation, any special requests, any special needs, and then follow up to determine how satisfied the customer is with the experience. We send an email out to every customer after every trip asking them to give us a net promoter score. I'm sure you're familiar with, you've probably received emails or other queries asking you to rate on a scale of 0 or 1 to 10 how likely you would be to recommend to a friend or colleague. And we regularly get 9s and 10s. That's basically all we get. So people love it. And it's not just the flying experience, but it's the wrapper around it that the marketplace provides in terms of the ease of access, convenience with which we're able to give them access, and then the customer service surrounding that in terms of supporting their trip. Obviously, the operators are going to benefit by getting extra capacity utilization right out of the gates, but also we're helping them run their business. So for several operators, we've taken over the scheduling function for them, and we're charging them a little bit more. And we see opportunities to kind of continue to go through the value stack as we achieve more scale, being able to get volume contract fuel purchasing, for example, and maintenance and other sorts of things that operators need to run their businesses more effectively. We do believe that our marketplace will not just take advantage of the excess capacity, but give the opportunity to grow it as well. We've already seen other operators who hadn't had these sorts of airplanes in their businesses begin to integrate them in. And of course, we'll all benefit from that. Just to put an extremely fine point on it, the airlines are challenging. Anybody who's ever had a recent experience can tell you that. By contrast, air taxi operates from regional airports that are easy to get to. It's all point to point. The time savings is dramatic. The stress reduction is dramatic. And importantly, the technology that's going into these small airplanes, every small air taxi aircraft coming off every assembly line today, Piper, Cessna, Beech, Mooney, Cirrus, they all have advanced glass cockpit technologies. None of them are coming out anymore with, the round dials and the airspeed indicators and all those things of old. They basically have two computer screens in them, which allows the implementation of advanced traffic, weather, terrain avoidance, autopilots, all sorts of things that have significantly improved the ability of the airplanes the air taxi aircraft to operate credibly at the level, of airline service effectively. Compared to other private air travel options that exist, some of these you may have heard of, and there are others that could be thrown on the list, that are even more recent. Air taxi is the best solution for regional trips compared to charter, fractional, subscription, or empty legs on a variety of levels. We have the same service level. We have more coverage because air taxi aircraft can utilize more of the regional airports than jets can because of runway lengths and performance requirements and so forth. It's the least expensive option. And, the way you buy it is the way you buy airline service. You buy a ticket and you go, or you buy a trip and you go, as opposed to these other options which require usually some sort of upfront fee in order to get into it. The process for booking today is incredibly inconvenient. If you wanted to go find one of these 2,000 aircraft that are in the air taxi fleet today, you'd have to find them. You'd have to figure out how to get in touch with them. You make a call to them. Chances are the guy who's going to be answering the phone is also flying the airplane, so it's back and forth. There's no automated system. On the operator side, they don't have automated systems, so a lot of it is manual calendars, spreadsheets, whiteboards. So it's a very inefficient process on both sides of the marketplace. And what we're implementing is a frictionless digital marketplace, right? So all the things that people have become accustomed to when working with OpenTable or Airbnb or Uber, real-time stuff with good customer support, which has the correlated benefit for the operators of taking all of that overhead associated with booking trips and managing the customers, takes it out of their hands and puts it in the hands of the pros who are doing it on our behalf, and allows them to focus on their business, which is flying the airplanes. We believe that the existing 2,000 airplanes represent a $500 million market today. That's 2,000 airplanes times $2,500 per trip times 2 trips per week per airplane, which is what we've seen with the couple dozen operators that we've currently integrated into our market. Before we start working with them, they're flying them at a relatively tepid pace. And the reason they're able to do that is that the airplanes are owned by someone who is getting most of their return, if you will, through their personal use of the airplane. And the charter usage is simply a cost offset. Any charter that can be gotten is good because it offsets some of the costs of ownership, the insurance, the maintenance, and so forth. So if you take that 2,000 and multiply it by $2,500, multiply it by 2 per week times 52 weeks, you get roughly a $500 million existing market with those 2,000 aircraft that are out there today under Part 135 commercial air carrier certificates. Based upon what we've seen in terms of our ability to add demand to the operators we're working with, we see a very clear path to $1 billion market by simply adding a couple more trips per week for these 2,000 aircraft that are operating. By the way, we're getting about 20% of the transaction now. That's consistent with what Uber gets. So if we were to add $500 million to the existing capacity, they'd be operating 4 trips a week. Again, not exactly an exhaustive pace. and the additional $500 million would represent a $100 million revenue stream for our marketplace. So that's in front of us and foreseeably accessible with the additional capital that we're beginning to raise to expand our customer acquisition marketing campaigns that we've proven this year, and expand the technology platform to include apps and other forms of more sticky and more competitively defensible technology integration with both customers and operators. So that's sort of what exists and what's potentially available to us now. In terms of how many people would choose to fly on an air taxi if they were made aware of it, and they could purchase it as easily as they could purchase an airline ticket, and as easily as they can book an Uber, which is our vision. We've done some work on that, and we've asked some analysts to take a look at that. And looking at the available data from the Bureau of Transportation Statistics, the analyst firm has come up with a number of 17.4 billion. Those are regional trips of 600 to 800 miles that are currently being done on airlines, driving, some charter, mostly airlines and driving, that are classified as of a premium nature. People who are paying premium fares on the airlines, or people who have indicated a business purpose for their driving trips. And while that's a big number in the abstract, it's only about 14% of the U.S. domestic air travel market. So it's in that context, it's a modest percentage of the overall U.S. domestic air travel market. Of note, there are 10,000 companies in the United States that are authorized by the FAA to provide commercial air carrier service. There's about 900 that are currently in the air taxi space. But as mentioned, there are others that are interested in getting into this as they see the potential for adding air taxi aircraft to their operations. So there's lots of companies and lots of aircraft that could be brought into air taxi service as the demand is proven, which is what we're doing. It's a demand-led business that we've put in place at this point. Of note, this does not get into the international opportunity. There certainly are opportunities in Latin America, in Europe, in Asia. Right now, we're focused on really the billion-dollar potential with the existing operators, and you'll see our plans go out only to about 50 million. But there's plenty of opportunity is the point that we're trying to make on this slide, and we have a uniquely defensible way of going after it. Our platform, as previously mentioned, involves portals for both the travelers and the operators. It's fully featured based upon really having been in this business for 10 years. So there's a significant, amount of software code that is proprietary, that manages customer relationship information, that manages airport information, that manages pricing information, that manages operator information, and that even at this stage of the game manages payments and analytics to provide information that is helping not just the marketplace run its business, but also the operators. So, we're a better solution than some others that have talked about trying to provide Uber for small planes. Probably most significantly is that we're only working with FAA-approved operators. There have been a couple of companies that have attempted to take private pilots with airplanes and essentially make them into commercial operators under a provision of the Federal Aviation Regulations that allows private pilots to get reimbursed part of their costs if there's a shared purpose on a trip. The FAA quickly moved to shut those businesses down because of the potential for private pilots to essentially hold out that they're going someplace and, not necessarily have a shared purpose and kind of turn it into commercial service. There's a pretty big difference, speaking as a pilot, between flying an airplane and driving a car. Even when the weather's nice, when the weather gets bad, it really gets challenging. And so it's a good idea that the FAA is not allowing these guys to essentially offer commercial service. You can see some of the other things there. So of significant note is that the marketplace is not taking any asset risk, right? There's plenty of assets that are out there that are underutilized. Those folks are taking the asset risk. The marketplace is taking the marketplace risk, the sales and marketing risk, really, and then the risk associated with creating a technology platform to defend that, which is something we're very comfortable with and which we've demonstrated good success at so far. Our strategy is to get after the to get after the market, by expanding from our base here in the Northeast. You can see the blue dots in the map up on the up in the upper right-hand corner. That's where our base is. That's where we started 10 years ago, and we've been expanding from there as we've gotten to the point at which we're going to do a couple $1 million of air taxi business this year. We've broadened ourselves into the Mid-Atlantic. We're now increasing our presence in other parts of the country. We have some operations in the South, operators in the Southeast and the Southwest and the Midwest as well. And as we raise the ground that we're raising, that will allow us to increase our customer acquisition, marketing spending, and continue to roll out it in a demand-led strategy. We put this slide in here just to kind of present a comparable. There's a company called Blade based in New York City that has billed themselves as Uber for helicopters and also seaplanes. And they had a business this summer flying people from Manhattan out to the Hamptons, basically shuttling people via helicopter. And they were doing scheduled service, selling seats. They had raised some capital back in the spring. You can see the amount, $6 million raised on a $25 million valuation. They had some investors, which were likely also customers. They came out with an app and really kind of focused on trying to replicate the Uber model, which is interesting but challenging for this particular business in a couple of ways. One is that they've chosen a very small, very, very highly seasonal niche market. There's no business right now flying people out to the Hamptons. I can tell you that because we also fly people out to the Hamptons, and that's sort of gone away because it's a summer destination. Other destinations are picking up the slack for us, but there really aren't a lot of great helicopter destinations beyond, the Manhattan Hamptons route. The other is that they have a problem with the Department of Transportation and are under investigation because of their inattention and lack of experience, I would say, with what the rules and the regulatory requirements are. Something that's not an issue for us as we have built upon our experience set over the course of the last 10 years being an operator to be fully in compliance with DOT and FAA regulations. So to put this onto sort of a graphic that has digital marketplace platform and on one axis and air taxi expertise on the other. Obviously, we're in the upper right-hand corner. Have you ever seen a presentation that didn't have the presenter's logo in the upper right-hand corner? But in this case, we feel pretty confident in this. We're the company that has the digital marketplace platform for all of these 2,000 operators, and it's based upon significant air taxi know-how, which is serving us well as relates to the regulatory issues and other issues that are business issues that we understand. So the two companies I mentioned that were attempting to do this with private pilots, Airpooler and Flight Now, are in the lower left. They have essentially been shut down, although Flight Now is attempting to make a case in the courts against the FAA, which history would suggest will not go well. Imaginair in the lower right-hand corner is actually one of our operators, but they also have been out raising capital in an attempt to create a sort of a siloed approach, owning all the assets. And the challenge for them is that they're taking on the asset risk as well. So while they have a fair amount of air taxi know-how, they are taking on the asset risk. They're not leveraging the marketplace, and their marketplace platform doesn't give them the capability to access all of the capacity that exists in the marketplace as ours does. Moreover, they lack the experience within the management team of running a marketplace and acquiring customers and using internet and database marketing to acquire those customers. And so as a result, I was just with Ben Hamilton, the CEO. They're up, 40% over last year, which is great, but we're up 250% over last year, which is better. Not going to dwell on our technology development roadmap. I've alluded to this already. Our main emphasis is on the apps for both the consumer and the operators. And as you imagine, as we scale and increase the number of transactions flowing through our marketplace, we have to scale the back end as well for the infrastructure, as well as add more features for both the consumers and the operators. Scaling the business, as I said, it's a demand-led approach. So we've validated our ability to spend money on internet marketing techniques and acquire customers. We've done that very successfully this year. We've seen those customers repeat purchasing at the same rate as others that have been acquired in the past. And so now our goal is to step on the gas by raising this capital and expanding our sales and marketing activities geographically throughout the United States, acquiring operators as that demand is increased who are standing by and ready to join, and then expand our platform to add more airports and add the apps and so forth, and ultimately be able to get to about 30 metro areas, which I already talked about that. I'm going to go to this first. Sorry, I'm going to look at our summary projections slide here. So this year we're projecting about 4 million in billings. About 2.3 will come from the air taxi segment, and the balance will come from our legacy Eclipse and other charter billings, which are projected to remain flat as they have been for the last several years. But seeing our air taxi segment billings grow to the about 50 million in the 2018 timeframe. As you can see from the bottom line, the net operating loss switches to a profit in 2017. That's at around 6,000 trips. This year we'll be at about 1,000 trips. So we're looking to raise, 1 to 3 million, which will support the operating losses next year and give us the ability to step on the gas. If we raise more than 1 million, we can step on the gas and also provide some cushion, against the downside. But if you look at the components of the spending here, and all of this is supported by a big bad spreadsheet that has our entire model in it for customer acquisition and return on investment and operator growth and all the rest of that, and overhead associated with managing the increasing scale of the business in the G&A area and so forth. But our two primary areas of spending are, of course, customer acquisition and then developing the technology platform to support the scale and increase the benefits to participants on both sides of the marketplace. So as mentioned, our minimum offering is $1.5 million. We already have 400,000 in bridge capital that we raised earlier in the year, so about $1 million, up to 3.5 million, with an extremely modest and I think increasingly modest as we continue to put more positive numbers up on the board. Pre-money of 4.6. We've raised about 2 million so far. And we have about 2 million in common equity. That is the underlying technology assets that were transferred from the legacy business. So it's our belief that a $4.6 million pre-money valuation is exceedingly modest. We are doing a 506c offering to accredited investors with a private placement and a minimum investment size of $25,000. And the folks from Offer Board would be more than happy to tell you more about that, I am certain. And as mentioned, our uses of proceeds, again, supported by a big bad spreadsheet, and this rolls up into the summary projections, which I had showed you a couple of slides ago. But basically spending on sales and marketing to acquire customers through the proven techniques that we've demonstrated already through Google AdWords and search engine marketing and retargeting and display network advertising and behavioral targeting and all those sorts of things that our team knows a lot about. And also developing the software platform with the apps and continuing to scale the platform, as we grow. So those are all the slides. I've run through them, hopefully not too quickly, but these will also be available as mentioned via a recording link that will be made available on through Chris and through Offer Board as we get through this, and that'll be up in the course of the next couple of days. So I've muted everyone out. I'm going to unmute now and see if Chris would like to say a few words. Let's see. So guys, Chris, are you there? All right. Well, it doesn't look like we've got the ability for. It's probably my fault. Sort of a little bit ironic that the guy building a digital marketplace is not able to manage the GoToMeeting webinar. But suffice to say that we'll have this recording up and make it available to you folks. So thanks again for everybody who attended, and we'll look forward to catching up with you in person at some point soon, I hope. Thank you.